Welcome to the Bionicle Inspiration Series, an additional episode for you because it's BIS-MAS Christmas. I did an announcement video about it, but in case you didn't watch it, essentially what I'm doing is I'm doing double the BIS in the month of December, and if you have a mock that you want to see on the show, submit it to the submission email, and I'll do my best to put it in one of these BIS-MAS Christmas special episodes. So we've got 10 submissions today, which is a good amount, a large amount. This was just the 10 most recent that were emailed to me, yeah, if you want to see yours in the next episode, get on that email submission. So let's dive in with the show that spotlights Bionicle mocks from across the community to inspire you with the first mock today. This is by Mail de Gens D6, and this is a revamp of Bulk. So one of my favorite things about this that I like is the weapon choice. Obviously, this version of Bulk, using that specific brain attack head there, is having little hints of orange to it. So I like the fact that the weapon also has that, because these Tahu Uniter blade pieces had that kind of nice, like, marbled effect with the little hints of orange at the end, kind of like it was some sort of, like, flame weapon or something like that. So it's a nice choice to include that there, just to kind of continue across those little hints of orange. I think that's just a little bit of fun, you know? Obviously, this mock is very much like a traditional Hero Factory set. It's just using a lot of the prefab limbs and stuff like that. And that's always fun. That's always good. It's a simple and effective way of building, and it just gets the job done. CCBS is a really awesome system. And I mean, how many times you see people go, bring back, CCBS, bring back Bionicle, and blah, blah, blah. It's an effective system that works, and people love it. So nothing wrong with just building in those, prefab styles and building just your typical kind of revamp of a character like this without any kind of crazy complex techniques and things like that, because a mock doesn't always need that. It can look awesome, just like we see here. So a solid take on Bulk. Let's move over to the next mock. This next one is by Cryo Fire 18 Gaming, and this is Gilox Mizzou. So I always like a good Rakshi head on a mock. It just works. It's a lot of people like Rakshi, and the heads just can be used for a lot of different things. And I think it's also really cool seeing sort of like crowns or some sort of like, I don't know, something over the top of the head. A lot of people have done it, and it always does look pretty good. So it's a nice sort of, I wouldn't necessarily call it like a tiara, but, some sort of like headdress or something over the top of it there that certainly gets the job done and looks nice. Some of these sort of weapon pictures here with this sort of interesting staff of sorts. I like the fact that the actual kind of hilt of it isn't just a typical axle, that there's sort of definition and like detail to it with all sorts of different pieces being used there. And I like that because it kind of elevates the weapon a little bit and makes it a little less just sort of like bland and boring, and actually makes it a little bit more interesting. So a clever but quite simplistic design that I think does a lot. So that's pretty cool in itself. And another little detail that I enjoy about this mock is the upper leg design. We can see some system pieces being used here, specifically some of these sort of cylinder pieces and different studs in what appears to be sort of like dark bluish grey and black. And I like that because there's a sort of intricate pattern that's been made there. And it's always just a nice example of seeing how you can use system pieces to really put in a little bit of extra detail or add a sort of like more kind of intricate pattern or styling or something that you really couldn't accomplish with your typical Bionicle pieces, because system's just smaller. You're able to kind of pack in those details in a smaller space there. So yeah, it's just a bit of fun. I like that design there. It's cool. On to another mock now by James Ingle, and this is Scorpion, Your Demise. There's something fun about this mock that reminds me of some of the old Dark Hunter books or some of the old like Rahi books and stuff like that, which would have different sort of creatures, Rahi, Dark Hunters and things in them that were built by fans and became the sort of like official artwork for those specific like canon Bionicle characters. And yeah, it's just a bit of fun to them. I remember really like poring over those books and really enjoying it. So it's cool to see something that at least reminds me of that. I don't know if that was direct inspiration or not, but still, it's cool. There's a lot of really nice sort of mask usage across this here. I really like seeing Matau's mask being used there as sort of like a bridge for a sort of like elbow of sorts on the sort of like front claws. And then seeing a couple of other masks being used kind of like around the eyes and sort of like leading into the blaster up there as well. Just a nice way of kind of creating a bit of shaping. And I don't know, it's always just cool seeing masks used in ways that aren't actually masks and are just sort of a part of a larger body design and stuff like that, because it can look really nice, and it's a great way of sort of getting some intricate shaping or, maybe bridging one part of a mock to another or something like that. So yeah, great to see those being used very effectively there. The Scorpion design of this is also really cool. I've always thought Scorpions were one of the better things to be able to build with Bionicle. You just kind of have a lot of things to play with. You get to do a cool tail, some pincers, multiple different legs, and then a big old body as well. I don't know, there's just like a lot of room to play with that, yeah, you can have similar elements with like your typical humanoid character and stuff like that, but I don't know, I think just scorpions translate very well to Bionicle. So hey, maybe if you're stuck for ideas, building a cool scorpion or something might work. And hey, some of these photos are also pretty cool going outside and stuff, because there's often better lighting outside, and yeah, maybe like a blank background might be a little less distracting, but still it gets the job done, and it's nice to kind of imply a sense of context for where this thing might live or how it moves around terrain and stuff like that. So yeah, pretty cool. This next mock is by Skekti Builds Bonks, and this is Pohana Valkyrie of Stone. Now, some of the images for this in the submission were different to what was on Instagram, but I figured I'd do a bit of a mix of the two here. I really like the dress design in some of these images that I saw on Instagram, using some of these beautiful balloon pieces here. Makes for a fantastic looking dress, and blends very nicely with the rest of the mock too, especially with some of the sort of smoother textures to these pieces. So a brilliant dress design that works awesome on this mock. I love the sort of like hip and sort of upper leg design on this mock, using some of these larger black tooth pieces here to form a sort of curved thigh of sorts. Typically with female anatomy, they often have sort of more like wider hips in that sense there. I believe that's because of childbirth and stuff like that. You can research your female and male anatomy and the differences between them and stuff like that, or look up sort of like drawing references and stuff to see the differences there, but I think this is just a great way of sort of illustrating that on a Bionicle mock, and yeah, it's just a great design and uses some pieces in some clever ways there, so pretty cool. Final thing, I also love the tires being used on the arms, whether that's the upper arms, where it's pretty much all that is just tires with a Hero Factory bone of sorts, and then the bottom there where there is some armor over it, but some of the gaps are filled in with tires. It's always just a very simple but very effective technique that continues across some smoother textures that fits in with your CCBS, but also fills in some of those unsightly gaps and things like that. So yeah, great design, works well, simple, effective, nice. Now, this next mock is called Quark, and it is Zipdo Zapdo who built this mock. Fantastic name. Zipdo Zapdo, Zipdo Zapdo. Very cool. Anyway, on to the mock itself. So, first off, there's a Bakugan on its shoulder there. Obviously not Lego, but hey, nothing wrong with mixing normal toys with your Lego and stuff like that. It's a bit of fun. There's also an incredibly rare piece on the back of this mock here. You can see this chrome silver piece from the very rare UCS Naboo Starfighter. The pieces, as you can see here on Bricklink, about $30. Very expensive for one specific piece there. So I don't know if this takes a record as using, people have used like gold Krokons and stuff like that. I was going to say, is this the most expensive piece that's been on a mock on the Bionicle Inspiration series? Unfortunately, no, but it's certainly up there. So there you go. A certainly very colorful color scheme for this mock as well. And I think something it's just sort of interesting to think about. I know Shadow Gear was telling me he did it once, where he just kind of wanted to build, but he kind of didn't really care about what colors he was using, and he just kind of wanted to play with new techniques and things like that. So he built this sort of quite large mock that was just with whatever colors he could pick up, and he came up with a lot of techniques as he did it, and he found that it was just super helpful because he wasn't thinking about what colors, are all unique and work together and stuff like that. It's like, I'm just going to make this in rainbow and let's just see what kind of ideas I come up with. So yeah, maybe play around with some of your more Rainbow Warrior kind of color schemes there, just to experiment with pieces and see what you can learn and stuff like that. So yeah, a bit of a spirit of that with this mock too, which is pretty cool. So lovely work, good sir. Let's move over to the next one now. This is the Red Dragon by Kordax. I love the head design on this mock a lot. I think it's really cool. Seeing some sausage pieces being used to form angry eyebrows there is a lovely technique. And then also seeing this kind of clever tooth design here, just using some studs and things there to convey teeth, and sort of the black gap in between there to show that his mouth is a little bit open like that there. Beautiful looking head design, really, really cool, and lots of nice part usages all throughout. The overall kind of silhouette of this mock is really nice. The fact that he's got these big, strong claws and big old hands that lead into a almost sort of like Gundark looking kind of body there is really, really cool. There's something very sort of sinister and menacing about this, almost a little bit kind of feral. You can imagine this guy like, roaring and banging on his chest and clawing at things as he attacks someone or something like that. So yeah, really sort of savage look to this mock, which is cool, and great to see this sort of beautiful striking red here as well. There's just something nice about some of those bright primary colors and stuff like that that just makes me happy, so I like that. The tentacles are also pretty cool too, with these sort of blades coming off of them there. It's a fun addition to the mock as well, so Pretty cool. This next MOC is Zoranius and Zein, the Inquisitors, and this was built by Aaron the Savior. So some interesting inspiration for these characters. You can see that this one here was inspired by a Kingdom Hearts character, which you can certainly see from the helmet and the color scheme, and then a Sonic character inspired the other one, which I guess kind of was mainly sort of the sort of unique headdress there, which I do like that on this MOC here, having this Kimu mask here, and then just spamming all these blades on the top of it like he has this sort of crown of sorts. It's a clever idea. And then some of these interesting poses here where he's sort of like meditating and things are levitating and stuff like that. That's cool too. So yeah, certainly a unique character, and I'm sure takes a lot of inspiration from that source material that I'm not super familiar with, but hey, it's still pretty cool. I also enjoy on this specific character here, the blade design here, using some of those lightsaber rod pieces there for this sort of interesting kind of like laser sword of sorts. I think it looks pretty cool. And just in general, it's nice to see a sort of like duo MOC like this. The fact that the color schemes are almost sort of, you know, total opposites in a sense. The fact that one guy looks a little bit more sort of sinister and evil and the other one sort of seems very good and noble. Yeah, it's just cool to build two MOCs like that sort of unique contrasts of each other. I guess that's kind of like a fun, you know, prompt if you want to build something to, you know, see how you can build sort of two complete opposites of characters that maybe still work together, or maybe they're mortal enemies or whatever. It's up to you in that sense, but it's certainly a really cool prompt in that sense. And yeah, hey, maybe there's a bit of inspiration for you there if that's something that's up your alley. This next MOC is called the Janitor, and it's by the All-Seeing Eye. I really like this. That pun wasn't intended there. The Janitor design in itself is cool. I do like the mask choice too. He looks a little bit grumpy, and it seems like he probably enjoys his job, but he's kind of like, hey, just leave me alone, I'm doing my work, you know. And the color scheme is also pretty fun too, primarily tan, but the inclusion of the sort of little bit of sand blue on the side there, and I believe a Shore Trooper armor piece as well, I think, that's kind of fun. It looks like he's a little bit sort of worn and damaged. I kind of get the sense this guy's a little bit older or something like that. It's a bit of fun. The Sensei Wu helmet too is sort of like shoulder armor, is also a very nice detail. And speaking of details, I love all of his little accessories here. This broom design is simple but very effective and fun, and this cool little sort of, you know, janitor cart and stuff with all those cleaning utensils and stuff on it. Really, really cool. But it does have a deeper secret. So the description for this on Flickr says, by day, they're a humble Turaga of sand, caring for the Matoran, but by night, they wander the island cleaning up the mess the Makuta is making. Pray you do not anger the janitor. Keep it clean, or he will. So that's cool. I like the idea of a janitor that, you know, secretly kicks butt and fights Makuta, and is maybe possessed by some sort of evil demon because he's got a weird shadow neck thing or something like that. It's cool. It's a very clever idea. Just you wouldn't expect that a janitor is secretly an evil dude who's going to kick your butt, you know. Or maybe he's not an evil dude. I mean, he fights bad guys, so he's a good guy. But, you know, maybe he's like the Hood from Marvel, and he is, you know, tapping into darker powers to get his power. I don't know. It's a cool idea. Nice work, my dude. On to the next MOC. This is by Strange Pelican, and this is Dryx the Monster Hunter. Once again, there's some nice mask pieces being used, not as masks on this MOC. We can see Brutaka's mask being used as these cool shoulders, and those daggers kind of coming out of them there too look pretty cool as well. So a very unique sort of shoulder design of sorts. We can also see that sort of cute orange mask in the center there from, is it Dekar? Is that his name? I always forget that guy's name. But the way that's been integrated into the overall torso design looks pretty cool. And then the knees, using some of those golden howls as well. Yeah, just like I said before, it's just cool seeing masks scattered throughout MOCs to sort of form armor and stuff like that. It just makes me happy. I like seeing it. And yeah, just overall a pretty cool looking MOC here, which certainly looks very sinister and strong and powerful and all that. So nicely done. The final MOC is by MC Lego Boy, and it's even worse than coal. This is a really fun idea. A present that's kind of come to life and is going to kill you because you've been a naughty boy this Christmas. I like it. The idea of this sort of brick-built present and the Bionicle pieces sort of popping out of it, especially this really nice technique here where you can see the socket sort of surrounded by like slopes and cheese slopes and things like that. So it looks like the present is being sort of punctured in that sense. Very clever technique there. And great idea to use some of these kind of mutter limb pieces in old grey there, because there's something very kind of textured and robotic about it that does look a little bit more sort of sinister when it's in this context around blades and different things. So a very simple technique that I think really does get the job done and looks very nice. I love his little weapon here, the fact that he's got one of the sort of launcher pieces, but MC Lego Boy here has built in a sort of like Christmas wreath of sorts instead of an actual disc that's being launched out of it, which is clever, you know, especially because it almost looks like it's got blades and stuff on it, but I see it as a Christmas wreath. Maybe it's just a different type of disc, but yeah, it works if that is what it is, so very clever. And the bow around the eye and stuff like that, it's fun. This is just a really clever idea and very well executed as well. So yeah, you really nailed this one, good sir. Nicely done. And that's it for 10 MOCs in this fan-submitted MOCs episode. And I managed to keep it about the same length, maybe slightly longer than a typical BIS episode. So hey, we nailed it. So hey, if you've got MOCs that you want to see on the show, submit them to the submission email that you're seeing on your screen right now. Check the links in the description for the MOCs that had links in the submissions. Not all of them did, but you can check out the ones that did and let the builders know what you think of their stuff. Additionally, there's links to my own social media in the description below, so you can check that out if you want to. That's it for now. Have a very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays and all that jazz. Happy building, and bye for now.